This is Med Sex by Andrea Eddleston. During opening credits, scene 1, interior hospital corridor day. A busy hospital corridor somewhere in the northwest. It's Debbie's first day at work, and she's accompanied by her line manager, Fran, who is taking her to the office where she'll be working. Fran is carrying an armful of paperwork, some headphones, and a foot pedal, which is swinging around her hips, looking as though she will drop it. Fran is chattering to Debbie, who occasionally nods. They pass doctors, nurses, and patients, some shuffling along and pushing saline drips. One patient, wearing a scruffy dressing gown, stops to light a cigarette. Fran stops talking and removes the cigarette from the patient's fingers and stubs it out on the wall. A domestic worker snatches the cigarette from Fran and yells at her as she wipes the ash marks from the wall. Fran throws her arms out in protest, dropping the equipment and paperwork she's been carrying, which is trodden on by passing people. Fran and Debbie bend down to pick up the items. As the opening music fades, Fran and Debbie reach an office door bearing a sellotaped paper sign which says Med Sex, but the letter C has been crossed out and an X written over it. Fran rips the sign from the door.
Sick of having to keep replacing this bloody sign.
Fran shoves the ripped paper into her coat pocket and drops the dictaphone equipment again. Debbie picks it up.
Why don't I carry this for you?
Well, you won't have far to travel. We're here now.
Scene 2, interior secretary's office day. There are 6 mostly messy desks. 4 are occupied by women, and another is occupied by a dummy wearing a scruffy dress, a balloon for a head with a wig and badge around its neck, saying, "Hi, I'm Susan." The phone on the dummy's desk is ringing out. Nell, 35 and smartly dressed, is on the nearest desk to the door. Her desk has photographs of German Shepherd dogs. On the floor behind her is a sleeping man wearing a suit and stethoscope, Dr. Gorringe. His spectacles are askew, and he's snoring softly. Opposite Nell is Lucy, 30. It isn't obvious at this point that she is a wheelchair user. Lucy quickly puts down the nail file and smiles at Fran and Debbie. Behind Lucy is Maud, 60 and stern-looking. Maud frowns at Fran. She then puts on her earphones and types. Maud's desk is the only tidy desk. Becky, 28 and wearing clothes and makeup more suited to a night out, is seated at the middle desk. Becky openly looks Debbie up and down. This is felt by Debbie. The next desk along Becky's is empty, and the corner desk is occupied by the balloon dummy. Fran moves forward and trips over Dr. Gorringe. Debbie's mobile phone rings out. She pulls it out of her pocket and stops the call.
Who's he?
Dr. Gorringe.
What's he doing on the floor?
Dr. Gorringe stands up, rubs his eyes and stares at Fran.
Who's she?
Fran, our line manager. But I understand your confusion because she's hardly ever bothers coming over to see her staff.
That's because there's 60 odd of you across 3 bloody sites. What am I, Harry Houdini?
Wasn't he an escapologist?
Who's that?
New girl.
Dr. Gorringe pulls a piece of paper out of his jacket pocket.
That patient. Cyanosis and wheezing. Core pulmonale. Book him in from a Friday clinic.
Corporal Mooninelli.
Oh, God. Not another one who doesn't know anything.
Dr. Gorringe grabs his phone off Nell's desk and leaves.
Cor pulmonale is a respiratory condition. It's when the right side of the heart becomes enlarged because of lung disease or the blood vessels.
I don't know why they still have to use all of these Latin names. It confuses all the new secretaries.
Yeah, they should re-evaluate the entire multidisciplinary field of medicine to suit new secretaries.
There's no need for sarcasm now. I'm just making the point that it slows down our typing figures when secretaries don't have a clue what these doctors are rabbiting on about.
Debbie's phone vibrates, but she ignores it.
This is the new girl I was telling you about. She's called, Deborah Moorcroft, and she'll be working for the, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Fran rifles through her folder, spilling papers onto the floor, which Debbie picks up.
I'm Debbie, cardiology secretary.
Oh, Keith.
Fran tidies the rest of the papers, one with a sticky note on the back of it saying, "Remember to contact HR, re final warning letter for Susan." Falls on the floor near Becky.
There's been a change of plan. Sorry, ladies. you're going to be doing teeth, so I need to take you to...
What Fran means is that you'll be working for Mr. Abdul and Miss Browning, who are the Max Fax consultants.
Sorry, Max Fax.
Maxillofacial, dental.
Teeth, Debbie.
Hang on a minute. I thought she'd be working with me. I thought you said I was finally getting some help. I've got too many consultants and...
Fran pauses at the door with Debbie. Maud stops typing and makes an agitated gesture.
What Becky means is she wants to offload her female consultants.
What Becky means is I'm currently working for 4 cardiologists and it's bloody ridiculous.
I'd prefer to stay with cardiology. I've done some support typing and I know how things work.
And for the record, I don't mind working with women.
That may be, but you'll fight tooth and nail to keep the 2 fellas you've got eating out of your hands.
Fine then. Ladies, can we just welcome Debbie, and I trust you will show her the ropes.
Debbie's phone is vibrating again.
Maybe you should answer that?
Debbie takes her phone out of her pocket and ends the call. There are 7 missed calls from Dylan. Debbie clicks on her text messages. Message 1, Dylan, how's it going? Don't take any crap. Message 2, Dylan, call me. Ashley's got a temperature. Message 3, Aunt Kay, you should leave Dylan. He loves me and you don't really give a shit. Debbie gasps and looks around at the others. Fran is arguing with Becky about the cardiology workload. The phone is on Susan's desk, is ringing out again. Nell is talking quietly to a good-looking young doctor who is entering the office wearing scrubs. Kieran, 30. Lucy is pretending to look at her paperwork, which is clearly eavesdropping on Nell's conversation.
I think we should talk later.
Nell notices Debbie looking at her.
Debbie, this is Dr. Kieran O'Donnell. He's our registrar in respiratory.
Kieran forces a smile at Debbie.
Debbie was meant to be the new Laura working with Becky.
Working with Becky, eh? I hope you've warned her what she's in for.
Hey, I heard that.
I'll meet you in the Red Lion after work.
Kieran leaves. Nell bites her lip and looks over at Lucy, who's been watching them, but turns to her PC to appear busy. Debbie's phone buzzes again, but she ignores it.
Perhaps we should keep you here, Debbie? I think Lucy can help show you the ropes.
Seriously, Fran? Shouldn't I be the one helping her if she's covering my department?
Lucy's down one consultant in respiratory, so she's got more time. Besides...
Becky makes a gesture at Fran as if asking what Fran is implying here.
I just think Lucy will be better at showing her the ropes. Surprised you haven't asked Nell to do it. Isn't she usually considered the golden girl?
Nell frowns at Lucy. There's clearly some underlying tension between these two.
Actually, I need Nell to come to paediatrics with me. That new girl, Alicia, doesn't know what a letter looks like.
You're kidding, right?
They're only used to texting or emails. Alicia's been putting emojis at the bottom of every letter. Lollipops for diabetes and broken hearts for cardiology patients.
Everyone turns to Debbie as if to ask where she knows what a letter looks like.
I've typed lots of letters in my old job, and I promise I'll just stick to putting kisses at the end of my letters. Just kidding.
Thank Christ for that.
So why employ Alicia as a secretary? I thought everyone had to do a typing test.
Oh, don't start. We can't get any new girls. They get paid better at McDonald's for doing a lot less. So my typing pool is now filled with all the Band 4 secretaries who have stepped down because they don't want all this shit anymore.
Fran is about to leave when she notices the balloon figure of Suzanne.
What's this?
Nobody answers, although Becky sniggers.
You can't make pretend people in your office, Becky. That could cause offence, that could.
Fran grabs the Susan dummy and drags it out of its chair, dropping all her files in the process.
It's not as offensive as her constantly throwing sickies and leaving us to do all our work.
Becky sees the sticky note amongst the items Fran dropped.
Remember to contact HR about final warning for Susan Bayliss.
Fran grabs the sticky note from Becky.
That's private.
Fran leaves the office trying to carry her files in one arm while dragging the balloon dummy with the other. Becky giggles and returns to her chair, checking her nails. Maud tucks and returns to her typing. Nell notices Lucy looking at her. Debbie appears unsure as to what to do, so goes over to the spare desk alongside Becky, puts down her bag and checks her phone messages.
What's up with you? You're acting weird.
Lucy huffs and returns to her typing. Cut to scene 3, Interior Secretary's office, day. Debbie is staring at her monitor. Lucy, Becky and Maud are all typing and Nell is handing out hot drinks. Nell passes Debbie a mug.
Still working through all the mandatory training modules?
Debbie nods. She's bored. Her phone buzzes again.
You're a popular girl. That phone hasn't stopped since you arrived.
It's my fella, Dylan.
Bit obsessive.
He was in the Paras and got injured. He's just trying to get used to things outside, you know.
Nell makes a sympathetic gesture.
Anyway, we've got a little girl.
Debbie shows Nell a photo of her daughter on her phone.
Ashley's 5.
Aw, she's cute. Just like you. Looks like you. Look, why don't you go across the corridors to the kitchen and phone Dylan? There's a decent signal in there, and hopefully it'll put his mind at rest if he's worrying about you.
Thanks, Nell.
I think we'll call it an end there because that is page 10.
Okay.
Is it?
And I know we've got another page, but I think we have to be strict because we're always strict. And okay, so I'm going to kick off about format because that's my bag man, as they used to say in the 1960s. And yeah, you need to get a handle on format, really. It's halfway there, and there's lots of help online for format. And I would say, as you're doing it in Word, maybe try and look to getting a program that will help you to format it automatically. And a Final Draft is the industry standard, but it's quite expensive. So if you look for Fade In instead, that gives you exactly the same as Final Draft, but it's much cheaper. And both of those are better than Celts, which does some weird stuff with formatting, although some people like it anyway. So yeah, that would help you. The other thing is something we said before, which is names. You've got every single instance of a name in caps and you don't need that. You just, the first time you mention them in action, you give them a caps, but then from there on, they're just regular upper and lowercase, just regular writing. I made lots of little notes. You've got, because you're doing it in Word and because it scrolls the pages around, you've got lots of widows and orphans. Sometimes they are scene headings at the bottom. Sometimes they're characters, names at the bottom with the dialogue on the next page. You have to connect the two. And you can't ever have a scene heading at the bottom and then nothing until the next page. You have to make a decision and carry that scene heading over if you are going to do that. But again, if you're doing it in a program like Final Draft or Fade In, it will automatically go, oops, can't leave this poor thing sitting on a page on its own, and it will do it for you. So it's worth doing it. Sounds are always in caps every time. That's the only exception. Punctuation. There are some points in it where your punctuation, there was one point where I thought, oh, that could be very weird. I can't find it quickly now, but it's one of those things where you need the Oxford comma, very clearly need the Oxford comma. Otherwise, you've got like something very weird going on. I can't find it in a hurry, but and the only other thing really, and I'm going to leave everybody else to do all the other comments about the story and everything, but the only thing that worried me about this, really, formatting is something you can learn, so that's not a biggie. It's not a big problem at all. Why are all the secretaries female? Why and why are all the doctors male? If this is set in the now, I mean, if this was set in the 70s, I could get it. If this is set now, you've got everybody doing everything. I'm just, is there a reason for all the secretaries being female and all the doctors being male? Because that seems like quite a old trope, you know, from like the 60s or 70s. Sort of. Other than that, oh, there was one other thing I put down: ad lib. You've got a lot of people talking to people without delineating that it's actually unheard ad libs. If you have them talking, you've got to give them dialogue. Otherwise, if you don't want to give them dialogue, you have to physically say they're ad-libbing to each other, and if it's not heard, then you say unheard. You know, so that we can be clear that nobody can hear what they're saying. It's just rhubarb. Ian.
I liked it. I like the characters. There's a lot of characters, as we discovered through our reading of it, and I think that gives us an opportunity to develop lots of different storylines. You know, see this as you can see it's like a continuing comedy drama kind of thing, where there's lots of different stories peel off from the central situation. I don't see it as a medical story. I see it as a character-led relationship story. You know, the medical is just a setting that gives them the opportunity to come together. So yeah, I'd like to see how where they take all these different characters and how they interact with each other and their relationships. I think there's something there.
Cool. Rachael.
Yeah, likewise, I think like there's something there. I wasn't sure exactly where we were. That would be good to put near the start of your script. Obviously, you're in hospital. I mean, location, country, etc. Also, wasn't sure when, but obviously you talked about texting, emails, etc. So that gave us a clue. There was obviously a few sort of visual gags and jokes in it, as well as ones in the dialogue. Kind of made me think a little bit maybe like Airplane or Naked Gun kind of thing. I don't know if that's fair to say. Yeah, I think some of the bits in the script could be got to a little bit quicker. You could make it a little bit snappier. That's about all I've got really. Yeah, I think it could be good. I enjoyed it. But yeah, the note Angela made about the sort of female and male divide, I kind of picked up on a bit as well. But maybe there's a reason for it.
Can I just something, as you've been saying that, I've just noticed something. And that is the names. You just said something, Rachael, about when is this? And then you said about the text and the emails. But it is a bit of a weird thing going on with the names. Maud is not a name I would give to a 60 plus. I'm 60 plus, and I don't know anybody called Maud. It is something from the 1910s, 20s.
Yeah.
It's like another 2 generations earlier. It's a very odd one, that is. And then I thought, and Fran is only 50. Now 50 is no age. Trust me, it's no age. And yet she's talking about Harry Houdini.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, I'm wondering if the reference is like, maybe it would be a more up-to-date reference or something. I don't know. It's just something, as you were mentioning that about
you could say David Blaine or something.
Yeah, David Copperfield.
Exactly.
Escapologist.
It's just somebody slightly
slightly more modern.
I don't know. It's an odd one, isn't it? Just make you wonder about the time, though. John.
Enjoyed the humour.
Yes.
The Fran joke of dropping all her stuff got very tired very quickly. Once she'd gone to the 4th or 5th time of doing it, it's like, now you're labouring it. But I have absolutely no idea what it's about. Now, whether that's just me or not, I don't know. But I just don't know what it's about. You know, I mean, we've got this beautiful interaction between all these people. Some of it's good, some of it's kind of okay. But it's just like, what's it about? And just saying somewhere in the northwest when you're referring to an area. You've got to pin it down a bit better than that. You know, I mean, if it's in Manchester or Liverpool, or, you know, it could be more.
Yeah.
Just to say the Northwest, that's a very large area. And we don't even know if you're talking about England. It could be America.
Yeah. Except that she refers to the Red Lion. And I think that's a very English thing, isn't it? British thing.
Well, there's a friend of mine who lives in Georgia who has a pub called the Red Lion.
Oh, really?
Yes, because pubs are very popular in America at the moment.
Yeah. Interesting. Stewart.
Well, I have to say I really enjoyed it, actually. I thought, oh yeah, this is kind of a situation comedy set up in one room in a hospital where the secretaries are camped out. Lots of scope for the different characters, the wider hospital environment. I was immediately getting images of Green Wing, the old series on Channel 4, which was really slightly surreal and offbeat comedy, but quite dark in places. So I was kind of thinking, oh, right, okay, is this where this is going? And also that recent thing with Ben Whishaw in This Is Going to Hurt, which was fantastic, which was kind of really dark comedy. But and then it turns to tragedy. So I'm sort of thinking, oh right, this is going to be a mixture of sharp comedy, but also commenting on the state of the national health and how everybody's run ragged because of lack of resources and things. So it's kind of trying to make a point here as well. So I was thinking, okay, this could be quite good. Yeah, I mean, the sort of bumbling doctor, age 50, asleep in the room made me laugh. So yeah, it had quite a lot of good stuff going on for me, I have to say. And I wanted to see more. And the characters sort of could be developed really well. So and I could see this as a series, TV series.
Yeah.
But I sort of take your point, Angela, about why are all the secretaries female? And I don't know. Are there any male secretaries out there? There probably are a few, but I'd say predominantly the secretaries and the admin staff of hospitals are female, I would think. But and I wonder whether the writers writing from experience here, actually, whether they've had that experience in hospital.
I think irrespective of whether it's dangerous now to make assumptions.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, I get that.
Like secretaries are always female, and historically secretaries were female, but actually they weren't, because in Victorian times women weren't secretaries; it was the men that were secretaries. So it's a bizarre thing, and I think you just have to be a bit careful about how you're going to cast things like that. I mean, I get that. You're going to end up with a divide where you've got a bunch of. I mean, they may well have in mind that there are doctors. I mean, there is a line in there saying, "I don't mind working with women." In other words, but I don't know. It just. I think you've got to mix it up these days. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, you don't want to kind of go down the stereotype character road, really. So yeah,
I mean, otherwise you're going to the kind of Carry On sort of all the nurses.
Maybe that's why I liked it. No, seriously, yeah, you're right. It's you don't want to go that road, but it's mix it up. Yeah.
Ian, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I've already done that.
Oh, you've already done. I'm sure there was something else. I can't remember what it was now. I was going to say, who you mentioned about pathos and about the comedy turning from comedy. The emotional aspect of comedy can turn very sort of bleak as well, but you can get a lot of emotion out of the comedy. Only Fools and Horses. The writer of that, John Sullivan, was amazingly good at doing that.
Yeah,
giving
when
people this
Grandad died.
He's a master.
absolute belly laughs, but then turning it on its head so that you thought, oh,
Yeah.
there's real depth in those characters, actually.
Yeah, when Grandad died.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a beautiful scene. It only lasts about 2 minutes between Rodney and Del Boy. And Rodney loses it and he's all like, why aren't you angry? Why aren't you crying? Why don't you feel any grief? And Del Boy's like, well, I have to take care of you first. Don't start me on about grief. I haven't even started yet. And that was just so beautiful.
It's very, very clever when you can do that with comedy. It's very clever. It's very difficult. Anyway, thank you so much. I hope that's